Have you ever noticed how he only pulls closer when you start pulling away? Not when you're giving, not when you're explaining, but the moment your silence enters the room, he starts to feel it. Queens, listen carefully, because what you're about to learn isn't a game. It's not a trick. It's the shift that changes everything. Detachment is not about pretending not to care. It's about learning how powerful you become when you stop proving your worth to a man who couldn't recognize it when it was right in front of him. There is a quiet kind of power in walking away, not to make him chase, but because you've finally remembered who you are. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to beg to be seen. Detaching is not the absence of love. It's the presence of self-respect. And once you start practicing it, he won't just feel it, he'll be haunted by it. Sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is say nothing at all and just live. That's the kind of quote you feel in your chest. Because silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've stopped handing over pieces of yourself to someone who didn't know how to hold you. He expected access. He expected control. He thought he could treat your love like an open door. But that door, it's closing now. And what he hears in the silence is his own mistake echoing back at him. Imagine being the sun. You shine, you warm, you give, but the moment he acts like your light is guaranteed, you set, and when he finally looks up again, you are already gone, lighting up a sky he can't reach anymore. That's detachment. That's the power of knowing you were never here to orbit him. He was supposed to rise with you, not dim you. This is where the shift begins. And before we move forward, let's make one thing clear. You are not some broken-hearted woman stuck in the shadows. You are becoming something untouchable, something unforgettable. You are not just walking away. You are rising into a version of yourself that doesn't chase. She attracts. She reigns. Hello, lovely queens. Give me 8 minutes. 8 minutes to show you how detaching from a man is not the end of love. It's the beginning of your rule. So, queens, stay with me. We're just getting started. If this message touched something deep inside you, if it reminded you of the power you've been holding back, then show your love by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We are working hard to bring you truth healing and the kind of lessons that don't just speak to your heart, they awaken it. Because you deserve content that lifts you up, that reminds you who you are, and that helps you rise as the queen you've always been. Number 1, the moment you stop answering, he starts questioning everything. Have you ever noticed how quiet can feel louder than any words? One day he was used to your replies, your good mornings, your softness, your concern, and then nothing. That moment you stop answering, that very second your energy no longer rushes toward him, is when the storm begins in his mind. He doesn't show it right away, but behind the silence you left, his mind starts spinning. Why isn't she calling? Why isn't she checking in? What changed? And that, queens, is the moment you stop being taken for granted and start being remembered as unforgettable. Detachment doesn't begin with a loud goodbye. It starts in the quiet decision to stop overgiving. He felt your warmth for so long, he mistook it for air. He never imagined what it would feel like when that air disappears. When you stop texting first, when your name doesn't pop up anymore, suddenly his comfort becomes confusion. His ego begins to shrink, and all those little ways you used to show love, they now scream in their absence. Sometimes your silence will do more damage than your words ever could. That's not just a quote. It's the truth of emotional power. Because you don't have to block, you don't have to fight, you don't have to explain. You just stop. Stop feeding what drained you. Stop giving what wasn't appreciated. And in doing so, you take back everything he thought he had control over. Imagine a candle that lit up every room he walked into. That candle was you. Always glowing, always warm, always present. But a flame that is never protected burns out. And now that you've pulled away, now that your light is gone, he sits in the dark, realizing that no one else shines quite like you did. That silence, that space you created, it will echo louder in his mind than any goodbye ever could. You are not here to chase. You are not here to remind a man of your worth. And queens, this is the moment we call the return. The return to you. The woman who now glows for herself. The one who no longer waits for a text, but builds a life so beautiful, even he can't believe he lost access to it. So, lovely queens, write this in the comments and claim it. My silence speaks louder than my pain. Let him wonder, let him question, and let the world see the rise of a woman who detached not out of weakness, but out of strength. And if this message reminded you of your power, if it touched a part of your heart that's ready to rise, like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are working hard to bring you life-changing truths that remind you, you were never meant to beg, you were meant to reign. Number 2, he thought you were a chapter until you closed the book. Have you ever watched him treat your love like a bookmark? Something he could return to when life got quiet? He thought he had time. He thought your story was his to pause, revisit, skip, and resume when it suited him. But what he didn't expect was this. You closed the book. Quietly, powerfully, completely. And now he stands there holding a chapter he once skimmed, wishing he had read it with care, knowing the story ended without him. He believed he was the author, but you were always the writer. He thought he could be the main character in your world without ever giving you the respect you deserved. But detachment is a shift, a beautiful, fierce shift. It's when you stop highlighting his name and start rewriting your own. And when that moment comes, everything changes. The plot no longer centers around him. It centers around you. Your growth, your glow, your greatness. You cannot start the next chapter if you keep rereading the last one. That's not just a quote. It's a truth that hits deep when you finally detach. He doesn't see it yet, but one day he will. He'll pick up the pieces of what he once had, but he'll find that the pages are gone. You no longer live in that story. You've evolved. You've outgrown the narrative that had you shrinking just to make him feel tall. Imagine a library filled with books. Some are shallow, some are rushed, but then there's one, rare, deep, unforgettable. That was you. And he left it, gathering dust, while he played with paperbacks. Now, he's searching for you in cheap copies and hollow stories, never realizing the masterpiece he had, until it was no longer his to hold. Detaching from him wasn't about anger. It wasn't about revenge. It was about finally understanding that your love deserves to be met, not tolerated, not toyed with. He thought you were just another chapter in his messy book of moments, but you, dear queen, were the whole novel. And now that it's over, he will reread memories, searching for a way back into a story that no longer has his name. Write this in the comments and claim it. I closed the book, and I'm not reopening it. Let the world know you are done repeating painful pages and ready to write your next chapter in power. We are working hard to bring you truth, healing, and the kind of life-changing lessons that remind every queen, you were never meant to beg for a place in his story. You were meant to write your own. Number 3, your detachment will starve the ego that fed off your devotion. Have you ever noticed how his energy shifts the moment you stop feeding his ego? The moment your attention disappears, the moment your validation dries up, suddenly he's unsure of himself. He starts wondering why your light isn't shining on him anymore. Queens, let's be clear. Some men don't love you. They love the way you make them feel. They don't crave your soul, they crave the spotlight you place on theirs. And when you take that light away, when you detach with grace and quiet power, his ego begins to starve. He never expected it. He believed your love was endless, your forgiveness automatic, your devotion guaranteed. But detachment is the one thing he didn't prepare for, because it doesn't shout, It doesn't argue, it doesn't chase. It simply disappears. And that silence, that space, that's where the lesson begins. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself more. Detachment isn't about closing your heart. It's about opening your eyes. And when your eyes opened, Queen, you saw the truth. You saw the way he relied on your love while giving you the bare minimum. You saw how he treated your loyalty like background noise, until the silence took over the room. Think of a flame, not the kind that burns wildly, but the steady one. The one that keeps a home warm, a soul safe, a love alive. That was your devotion. But even the strongest fire fades when it's never fed. And now, he's cold, because he used to warm his hands by your love without ever tending to it. Now the fire is gone, and he's feeling every bit of that chill. This is not about revenge. This is not about punishment. This is about dignity. It's about pulling back your energy from a man who thought it belonged to him by default. It's about standing tall in your worth and refusing to hand it over to a man who couldn't handle it. You were not placed on this earth to keep his ego alive. You were born to reign. So, Queen, write this in the comments and claim it. My detachment is my power. Let that be your new truth. Let it echo louder than any goodbye. We are working hard to create content that helps you remember you were never meant to beg. You were meant to reign. Mention number 4. You were never clingy. He was just addicted to being the center of your world. You ever noticed how he called you too much, only after you stopped making him feel like he was everything? He said you were clingy. He said you needed too much, but the truth is, he was never uncomfortable with your love. He was addicted to your attention. He craved being the center of your world, not because he loved you deeply, but because it fed something in him. And the moment you pulled back, the moment you stopped making him your sun, your sky, your whole meaning, that's when he started calling it clingy. But what he failed to understand is this: your love was pure, your care was real, your presence was consistent. You weren't chasing, you were investing. You weren't needy, you were nurturing. And now that your energy is no longer circling around him, he feels the void. But instead of owning his loss, he wants to label your strength as weakness. Queens, don't fall for that lie. You were never too much. He was simply too small to carry the weight of a love that real. Sometimes the real problem isn't how deeply you loved, it's how little he was able to hold it. That quote cuts deep, doesn't it? Because you gave him everything, and now, in your silence, in your distance, he is finally noticing what he took for granted. That is how detachment works. You don't scream, you don't explain. You simply take your love back, and suddenly the air feels colder, the world feels emptier for him. Think of a garden. You watered it, cared for it, fed it light, even when the soil gave you nothing back. But now, you've taken that water and poured it into yourself. You've moved your sun to a place where it's appreciated, and while he looks around wondering why nothing blooms for him anymore, you're blossoming elsewhere, far from his reach. Dear Queen, you were never clingy. You were just misread by a man who thought love was about control, not connection. And now he's watching the one who once made him feel like everything become the one who no longer looks his way. Write this in the comments and claim it. I was never clingy. He was just addicted to my light. Queens, if this spoke to your heart, like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are working hard to bring you life-changing lessons that remind you of your worth, your power, and the love that should begin with you. Number 5. When you stop chasing, he starts collapsing. When you stop chasing, he starts collapsing. Strange, isn't it? how strong he seemed when you were the one calling, reaching, loving. But the moment your energy returns to you, the moment your steps turn away, he begins to unravel, not because he truly loved you, but because he loved the way your love made him feel. He was never the source of that power, Queen. You were. And now that you've pulled it back, he's exposed, vulnerable, lost without your light. He thought your love was a given. He thought your presence was guaranteed. He believed he could keep you in his orbit while putting in the bare minimum. But what he never saw coming was this version of you, the one who's learning how detachment works, the one who no longer chases, because the minute you stopped running toward him, he finally had to face himself. And that collapse, it's just the beginning. Never beg for a seat at a table you built. That quote fits your story now. He didn't just underestimate your worth. He ignored the fact that you were holding everything up, the relationship, the energy, the effort. You were carrying it all. And now, you've let it go, you've detached, and while you may be hurting, he is falling apart. Picture this, a vine climbing a wall, strong, full, growing, but what happens when the wall crumbles? The vine doesn't fall, it finds another way to rise. That's you. You were never dependent. You were just growing in the wrong direction. He was the one leaning on your love like it was unbreakable. Now that it's gone, he's realizing he was never as solid as he pretended to be. This is your turning point. You are no longer the woman who gives everything just to be noticed. You are no longer the one holding on while he drifts. You are rising, and the collapse he's facing now, that's the silence of your absence, the price of your peace. Write this in the comments and claim it. I stopped chasing. He started falling. Let the world know that detachment isn't weakness, it's wisdom. We're working hard to create the truth, the healing, and the fire you need to rise. Because queens don't chase, queens reign. And this is your time. Number 6. He wanted you on standby, but now he's the one watching from the sidelines. He wanted you on standby, didn't he? Like a safety net, like a backup plan, like the woman he could always return to when his world didn't go as planned. He never imagined a day where you'd be the one who stopped showing up. But that day came, and now he's stuck watching from the sidelines, wondering how the woman who used to revolve around him is suddenly the one rising without looking back. Queens, this is what happens when you stop chasing and start choosing yourself. He didn't think you had it in you. He thought he had more time. He thought you'd always answer. But detachment is a powerful teacher. You didn't yell, you didn't fight. You simply stopped trying, and that silence, it hit harder than any goodbye ever could. As Epictetus once said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. And emotional freedom, queens, that's where real power begins. You gave your heart, your energy, your loyalty, but the moment you stopped feeding his ego, he started starving. That's what detachment does. It removes your light from his world, and now he's left in the shadows, realizing what he took for granted can no longer be reached. Picture this. He thought you were a flame that would keep burning no matter how cold he became, but you were the fire and the warmth. And once a fire stops burning, it doesn't beg to be reignited. It moves, it finds new ground, it starts again, stronger than before. That's you now, the woman who no longer waits, the woman he now watches. Let him sit there. Let him scroll. Let him wonder. Because you are no longer waiting in his corner. You are in your own ring now, unmatched, undefeated, unshaken. Dear woman, he wanted you on standby. But now, he's benched, and you're front and center, glowing, healing, building a life so rich in self-worth that his name no longer echoes in your mind. You were never his second choice. He just wasn't ready for your first-class love. Write this in the comments and claim it. He wanted me on standby, now I'm out of reach. Well, please, Queens, if this message stirred something inside you, we're working hard to give you truth, healing, and the strength to detach with grace. You were never made to wait. You were made to reign. Number 7. Your detachment is not distance, it's dignity. Have you ever noticed how he only started feeling your presence when you finally took it away? Not when you begged, not when you explained, not when you kept giving more and more of yourself just to feel seen. But the moment you pulled your energy back, something shifted. Suddenly, your silence wasn't just silence. It became the loudest echo in his world. That, Queens, is detachment. And let me be very clear, your detachment is not distance. Couple woman detaches not because she's cold, but because she's tired of bleeding for a man who keeps asking for more while giving less. You didn't walk away because you didn't care. You walked away because you finally started to care about yourself. And in relationships, that is everything. Detachment isn't a lack of love. It's loving yourself enough to let go of what breaks you. That's not just a quote. It's a reminder of your power. You were not created to sit quietly while he plays games. You were not born to shrink yourself to fit into his world. You are not a placeholder. You are not a backup plan. You are the destination. Imagine a crown placed too long on the wrong head. Eventually, it loses its shine, not because it lacks value, but because it was never treated like royalty. That's what happened when you stayed too long, hoping he would see what was right in front of him. But now, you've picked up that crown. You've placed it back where it belongs. And Queens, that's what detachment looks like. Not revenge, not bitterness, just grace, just strength, just truth. Let him think you've disappeared. Let him wonder why the energy he used to take for granted is gone. While he sits in confusion, you'll be out there glowing, thriving, becoming a woman so powerful he won't even recognize the version of you that used to beg for crumbs. You are not cold. You are not heartless. You are healed. And that, dear Queens, is your real power. So say it with me and write this in the comments. My detachment is my dignity. Let the world know you're not pulling away out of weakness, but out of deep, unshakable love for yourself. If this truth hit you in the heart, if you felt seen, if you're ready to rise, like this video and subscribe. We are working hard to bring you powerful, life-changing lessons, because you were never meant to chase, you were meant to reign.